Well, hey guys, thanks for joining us today for another origin story. We have someone familiar today. You probably know Morgan, who is a recent high school grad, and she's been in our youth group for a long time. So a lot of you know her. So we're going to get to hear a little bit more about her, though, maybe learn a little bit more. Morgan, we're doing a series called Origin Stories, as you know. So I have to ask, who is your favorite superhero?
I probably have two. My favorite is Captain America and the Scarlet Witch.
Okay. Yeah, those are ones I haven't heard yet, so that's good. Cool. Yeah. So superheroes aside, tell us about yourself. You know, upbringing, household, all that fun stuff.
So I always grew up in a Christian home. I had my parents who were always really strict and always made sure that we were in church every Sunday, and I had my 3 older siblings who I kind of watched go to youth group and grow up a lot before me, and so I always wanted to go to youth group, and I always wanted to just do more in church because I saw them get to do stuff in church. And around 3rd grade, I switched. We went to another church. It was just really small. Me and just one other friend were the only kids in the church, and then after 3rd grade, we moved to the Nazarene church, and I met just a whole lot of people, and my faith was challenged in a lot of other ways, and I started taking my faith more seriously because before then, my only Sunday school teacher was my mom, and so then it wasn't my mom or anyone teaching me, it was someone else teaching me and challenging me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so you grew up here in Marion, right? And 2 brothers, 1 sister.
Yes.
And you are the baby.
Yes.
Yeah. So as far as that, yeah. So I mean, it's really cool to see your whole family. The thing I love about your family is you guys are serving everywhere. So you guys just do all kinds of stuff, and you do it together, which is really cool. It's really cool to see families serving together. But as far as your salvation experience, maybe describe for us how you came to know Jesus.
So I have kind of 2 stories, because I have the one where I was really little. I was in probably 1st or 2nd grade, and we did this thing called Awanas, which is basically where you memorize Bible verses, and then there's a little devotional time with a children's pastor at the end, and it's in this big group. And so I remember one time he was talking about salvation and about having Jesus in your heart. And so I remember in 1st or 2nd grade, I kind of said the prayer. But then when I came to Marion First Nazarene, I really started taking my faith seriously. And it was really at a church camp then when I was in the 4th or 5th grade that I said it, and I really meant it. And this time I knew what I was saying it for, and I knew why and the importance of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, it's always strange when you I was the same way, and there's a lot of people probably watching that are the same way, that they grew up in church, and so that whole salvation thing is kind of a blur. Maybe they were super young, or feel you did it 17 times, but it's one of my college professors one time from a ministry class said it's not about when you get saved, it's about when salvation gets you. It's about when you finally figured it, the light bulb moment, I know exactly what I'm getting into, I know exactly what I said yes to now. And hopefully a lot of the people watching are having those moments, even in the middle of quarantine and Zoom youth groups and all that fun stuff. But so you grew up with the family that you all the time going to church and youth group stuff all that time. Describe maybe some significant life moments where your faith was challenged.
So I don't really have a lot of specific moments, big moments where my faith was challenged. It's more just a constant thing, and it's a constant battle of, am I going to give in to the fear or the doubt of what other people have to say, or of the consequences of sharing my faith could have? Am I going to be brave enough to share my faith and to talk about God and live out that life, or am I going to let the doubts and the fears win? Am I going to let them control my life? and kind of just live a more quiet and hesitant life. It's a constant battle instead of just like one big moment where my faith is challenged. And it's choosing, am I going to trust my faith and trust in God, or am I going to trust in my own abilities and what I know and can control?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and it's like the little things too add up. You know, when you start to make those little decisions that bring you a little further from Jesus, then you look at yourself a year later and you're like, whoa, what happened? So yeah, that's good. And then maybe on the flip side, maybe some things that strengthened your faith as you've been growing up and going through youth group and all that.
So I was thinking about these questions yesterday, and there are like 3 really big moments for me. So there's a winter retreat my sophomore year where it was with, I believe his name was Joey Claus, and he was talking about fear and all of this stuff, and it was a lot of things that I was struggling with. And I just remember like a lot of people, they're moved by what he was saying, and I was right along with him, and it was just real because I felt like in that moment, it was at Kalahari, I just felt God's presence like I never had before. And it's just really amazing to just hear him speak to me and to just hear him say like, it's okay to trust me, like you can trust me and it's okay. And it was like after that winter retreat, I really got serious about like reading the word and not doing it just because I knew I was supposed to do it, but doing it because I wanted to, and I wanted to grow deeper, and I wanted to find more affirmation in the scripture. And so when I really started praying more seriously because I knew there's power in it. And then like when you came to be our youth pastor, my faith was also really strengthened, because before that my faith is really dwindling, and I was just going to church more because it was another box on a checklist of faith things to do. But then when you came, you really challenged my faith because you're really serious about just being there and like making the most of it and making an impact and making your faith your own. And I really wanted to do that, and not to be my siblings' faith, not to be my parents' faith, but to be my faith and what I wanted to do. And then also just like NYC and camp, just entire last summer, it was amazing because we got an incredible message from Jeremiah Bullock, and then a few weeks later we went to camp where it was just one speaker after another that was speaking and impacting me so much. One of my favorite speakers from NYC was Stretch Dean, just because again you talk about fear, and that's a problem that I face and I struggle with so much. And it was just impacting me, and is talking about surrendering to God because he's got it. And so just those moments where I didn't fear for anything for even just a few months after, and then the fear slowly come back in. But it was in those moments where my fear and my faith was just strengthened so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, those are some really good moments. Those are some of my favorite moments. I mean, that retreat you're talking about was my first retreat with here in Marion, and it was super awesome. And I still think about those moments. And then NYC, got my NYC poster here in my office right there. But it's weird because it's a year ago today that we went to NYC, which is crazy. Insane. We were at the airport, probably waiting on our flight and all that fun stuff. But it's crazy to think about. But yeah, those moments where you just kind of you go to this activity, or you go to this retreat or whatever it is, and it's super fun, but it just allows you to get out of the routine and have like some kind of different connection with God, and you remember those things your whole life, which is super cool. And it's a really good plug for if any of you guys watching have ever not experienced something like a retreat or a camp or something like that. Hopefully next year we'll have those things, so that you can be a part of it. But yeah, and so like if you could go back and like think about like your middle school years and little baby middle school Morgan, what would you maybe, if you could go back and tell her something, what would that be?
Get more involved in youth group, like going to every single thing that there was, especially like camp, because I had a bad experience at camp when I was in elementary school. It was like 5th grade, I had a bad experience. And so all throughout middle school and up until last year, I didn't go to camp. And after last year, I really regret it because there was an amazing speaker and the worship was just absolutely amazing. And it was just a week with some of my best friends just having an amazing time. And I really regret not going to it earlier. And also just in general participating in youth group and like the games, because nobody's going to judge you for how you play the games. They're honestly not. But for the longest time, I didn't play any games because I was scared they would judge me. and then also to participate in discussions and being like vulnerable, because if you're not vulnerable and allowing people to help you grow, then you're not going to grow. Because like they always say, like you can't do this on your own, but really it's true, because like over these past few years, as I've opened up more and more, just the youth adults and the helpers have helped me so much in my faith and growing and just strengthening that and encouraging me.
Yeah, and that's awesome to hear. I mean, that's why we do what we do here. That's why, we plan those events. That's why we plan the every week gathering, worship, all that fun stuff. And it's about the connections we make, and the connections with God we make, and the memories we make. Like those games, like, man, I was horrible. I'm still horrible. I'm not an athletic person, but there's always a funny, memorable moment when I get out there and play ultimate frisbee. Like that's how it is. That's how memories are made. So it's super, super good to hear that. And if you're watching, a lot of you do know Morgan, but she graduated, but you're going to be around here, right? Going to OSUM, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
If Morgan, what I love about you is that you've always been so grounded, and like you like know who you are in Christ, and I feel like anybody can learn from you in that regard. So if you're like struggling with something, like I feel like Morgan would be a really good person to talk to about some stuff. And last question, I didn't like ask you this. I didn't send you this before in my list of questions, but like. You went all through, high school, you went to River Valley, and it can be hard to be a Christian in high school. It can be hard to be a Christian in middle school. What do you think is like the best advice you would give to a middle school or high schooler who is in public school trying to follow Jesus, but it's hard sometimes to not just do what everybody else is doing? What advice would you give to them?
So my advice would be there's just a few things, like really digging into the word and finding like your truth and everything from the word. Like one of my favorite verses right now, I don't know it like word for word, but it talks about how if I'm being crazy, I'm doing it for God, but if I'm being sane or like I'm fitting in, it is for your benefit. And so it's like we're not supposed to fit in. We're not supposed to be normal. We're supposed to be crazy. We're supposed to stand out. We're supposed to be different. And that's really hard. And honestly, I wasn't very good at it. I was really quiet, and I really just didn't stand out much because I didn't want the attention. But I realized like my junior and senior year, which is really unfortunate because I went so many years without like really knowing this myself, that like we're supposed to be crazy, we're supposed to stand out, and it's okay to be different in our faith because that draws other people to the faith and it makes other people question and other people see it when we're crazy. Then also just to like love people, like from NYC last year, it's loving others. Like it doesn't matter who they are, where they came from, and you need to love them and like not judge them because you don't know what they've been through. You don't know what they're going through at home, what struggles they're facing in school with their friends or whatever. So to just love them no matter who they are, no matter what they've done to you, to just love them and not treat them any differently because of how they treated you or how they act with other people.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So Morgan, thanks for doing this. I think that's some good insight. Something else I think that you probably, I think that probably benefited you is just the group of friends that you had around you. And the friends you have really do determine there's really the direction of your life. And a lot of people, there's a lot of people, maybe you had, for a few years in youth group that, went with you. And then now maybe they got in with a different group of friends. And now, this is like not really a part of their life. And it's because they allowed a different group of friends to take the direction of their life. And you didn't allow that to happen. You surrounded yourself with good Christian friends, and that's an important piece.
Yeah, friends are huge. Like just having Bree and Haley at youth group, and then also I was able to find really good friends at school who, like in middle school they weren't quite so crazy and they were more like me, and then in high school they started like doing more things that I was uncomfortable with. They didn't force it on me or anything. So it's really crucial to have really good friends too. Yeah. And and that's something you guys watching can take and think about is,
are the friends I have right now hindering my relationship with God, or are they strengthening it? And if they're not strengthening it, doesn't mean you should, excommunicate them, but maybe you should get different best friends. Maybe you should spend more time with other people. That, doesn't mean you always have to hang out around with Christian people, but the people you hang around with the most, the people that influence you the most, should be the people who have the same values and the same desires that you want, which is hopefully to follow Jesus. And so yeah, Morgan, thanks so much for doing this, and thanks for an awesome interview, origin story. If you want to get to know Morgan better, I'm sure she would love to talk to you at our next live outdoor youth group, which will be next Sunday night. So don't forget and bring a friend to that. So Morgan, thanks for hanging with us.